Sometimes the most profound journeys, the ones that really change you, are the ones you never, ever planned to take. This is one of those stories. It's about a totally routine rideshare that somehow turned into this incredible exploration of friendship, recovery, and what it actually means to be human.
I'm sure you've heard this saying before, right? It's this idea that every single connection we make has some kind of purpose. Well, let me tell you, this story is all about a season of friendship. A season that started with a complete stranger sitting in my passenger seat, and it absolutely changed the way I see the world.
So, picture this. I was driving for a rideshare company, just doing my thing on a regular Monday morning, when I picked up a passenger I'm going to call Tammy. I figured I was taking her to work or maybe an appointment, but she had something else in mind. She took a leap of faith and made this simple but really brave request. Tammy asked me if I would ever consider becoming her private driver. See, she needed consistent rides 3 times a week to her addiction recovery classes. And that one question, it kicked off this whole unexpected partnership, and my car suddenly became the backdrop for this incredible story. So, Tammy was a mom, she was in her 50s, and she was just stepping into this brand new phase of her recovery. It was a chapter that was all about high accountability, for sure, but also about more trust, more independence, and this is the most important part, a whole lot more hope. And it's funny. My car, just a regular old Nissan Pathfinder, it started to transform. It went from being just a vehicle to something so much more. It became our sanctuary, a little mobile space for some really raw, totally unfiltered honesty. Pretty quickly, these drives stopped being about just getting from point A to point B. They turned into this protected time where we could both just lower our guards, We could reflect on our lives and have those kinds of deep, real conversations that, honestly, are just so rare. Tammy said something really early on that it hit the nail on the head. It perfectly captured what we were building together. We both realized that we'd accidentally created the very thing we both needed, a sense of tribe, a sense of family, a space that was completely free of judgment. And then our little sanctuary expanded. My granddaughter, Harbor, started joining us on our rides. And just like that, we became this unique, multi-generational village on wheels. You'd have these really deep conversations happening up front, and then they'd get punctuated by these innocent questions from the back, a sudden request for a snack, or some surprisingly loud backseat singing. It was just perfect.
But of course, life and recovery, they're never a straight line, are they? The journey wasn't all just heartwarming moments. It was also filled with some pretty tough roadblocks and some real gut-wrenching grief.
The weight of reality just came crashing down. On 2 different occasions, Tammy found out that peers from her program, people she knew, people she was rooting for, had died. One to suicide and another in a hit and run. And just like that, this devastating heaviness would fill the car. It was this stark reminder of just how fragile this whole process is.
I will never forget her words after she heard about the second loss. It was just this raw, vulnerable cry that it said everything about the immense emotional toll she was under. How much can one person possibly take while they're trying so hard to heal?
And Tammy was dealing with this constant friction. In a recovery home, she felt watched. There were cameras everywhere, and it created this feeling of isolation and control. But then, in her meetings with her parole officer, she felt seen. And that respect, that validation, it became this absolutely crucial lifeline for her.
Okay, so this brings us to a major turning point in the whole story, the power of agency. This is all about Tammy's starting to reclaim her own driver's seat, and was powered by self-empowerment and this growing trust in herself.
So, what do we really mean by agency here? For Tammy, it was the power to own her story. It wasn't about trying to control everything around her. It was about making conscious choices, one small routine at a time, to just keep moving forward. And we got to see this path to agency just unfold, step by step. It started with her owning her mistakes, like when she had to face a panel for a missed test and she did it without making any excuses. It grew with that validation she got from her parole officer. And through it all, she was consciously choosing growth and, so importantly, learning to trust herself again. I actually shared this little metaphor with her from my old driver improvement teaching days. I called it the driving brain. The whole idea is that you can operate from this reactive, emotional child brain or this kind of controlling parent brain. But the goal in driving and in life is to stay in your adult brain, to be present, to be aware, and to choose wisely. So,
After all these rides, all these conversations, what were the big takeaways? What did this completely unexpected journey really teach us about recovery, about connection, and just about life itself?
This, right here, this was maybe the most important realization. Tammy's progress wasn't happening because of the flawed systems that were supposed to be helping her. Her success was happening in spite of them. It was being fueled by her own internal strength and the small, chosen support system she was building for herself.
Our whole journey really boiled down to these powerful truths. We learned that recovery is never, ever walked alone. Sometimes your tribe is just 2 women and a little kid in a Nissan Pathfinder. We learned that consistency is the currency of trust. Our 3 rides a week became this bedrock she could count on, that simply being present for someone creates a safe place for them to grow, that gratitude isn't just a reaction to good things. For Tammy, it was the fuel that kept her engine running on the absolute hardest days. And finally, that deep down, we all just want to be truly seen. Not for our worst moments, but for the person we're trying so hard to become.
And that leaves me with this final question for you to think about. Our greatest lessons, our biggest moments of growth, they often come from the most unexpected places. So take a second and ask yourself, who are the unlikely people, the seasonal friends, who have been the most profound teachers on your journey?